This is Brindlewood Bay Tourist Season Part 5. We are short a couple of Mavens this week, although one of the Mavens might be joining us later. We're still trying to feel that out. But in any case, I think I want to just do a quick character recap. Mostly, I just want to know your conditions, I think, at this point. Here's the link to the folder, if anybody, or the sheet, if anyone needs it. I want to just run through conditions. I don't need you to read them off to me. I'll just read them out for the video purposes. So it looks like, Ruth, you have tipsy and brave face as your conditions, which is great. And have you taken any new moves or anything recently?
No, not recently.
Yeah, not recently. Okay, great. And let's go over to Laura, who has 3 conditions, and they're all gruesome. The Black Dog, the Clouded Past, and Horrified. And have you taken any new moves recently?
No, probably at the end of this session. But
yeah, and awesome. So we have a decision to make here. The last thing that happened last session is you did the baking contest. You finished up the contest. Melanie, one of the suspects, won, and so and that was in the evening. So we were already kind of like pushing towards the nighttime. We need to figure out if you want to both continue the investigation of Paul Riviera's murder tonight, or if you want to go ahead and just wait until the next day. Depending on what you want to do kind of affects how we kick off today. So do either of you have any preferences there?
So before we really get into it, since it's been a minute in real time, could we like go over the mystery again and where we're at?
Yes, yeah, I'm supposed to do that every time, actually. I just didn't do it. So yeah, the Great Brindlewood Bay Bake Off. So that is our active mystery. The Jolly Good Baking Show's judge, Paul Riviera, was found dead in the middle of a local edition of the Jolly Good Baking Show. We have 5 clues right now. Sue, one of the presenters, suggested that there was no love lost between judges Jane and Paul. Buck, who is a local cameraman, and Donna, who is Paul's widow, are having a fling. You found dirty text messages between them. Sue asked Paul for money, but he turned her down. Someone was making an unreasonable contractual demand in the production. And you found flowery love letters from the British Prime Minister. Where were those found? Was that in?
Behind the poster in Timothy Bush's
Bush's trailer. Yeah, very good. That's probably pretty good context. Our suspects are Sue Mellon, a presenter and washed-up comic. Timothy Bush, another presenter. We have Jane Leaf, our posh elderly judge. We have Heath Hendricks, who's the producer of the Jolly Good Baking Show and seems to be very connected to kind of everything. He's always kind of in the mix. Donna Riviera, a former reality TV star herself and Paul's wife. Scott Lamb, a contestant who has a fiery, presumably sexual history with Paul. Melanie Blair, a contestant. This is an interesting note. This is not a capital C clue, but really great context, which is Paul's bakery chain put her family's local bakery out of business. And then we have Buck, the cameraman, who we don't know much about, except that he is with Donna. They're messing around. So that's kind of where we're at with the mystery. Were there any other questions? We also have some void clues that came out as well, but void clues aren't connected directly to the murder necessarily. So with all that said, what do we think about nighttime or daytime? Where do we want to go?
I'm happy to jump to the next day.
Yeah, we could either do that, or the other idea that I had, because of all of Laura's conditions, and maybe also as a kind of starting off point for this twosome at the moment, that maybe Laura just wakes up in the middle of the night with all, thinking about the clouded past, being horrified, maybe even with, kind of having a vision of the black dog, who knows, and just seeks out Ruth to go back to the place, to go back to the set, and she's just so troubled by all of this that she wants to, get something going, because Sheriff Dalrymple definitely will not be able to help here.
So you're thinking, so it sounds like we're down to either the next morning or Laura waking up in the middle of the night and dragging Ruth back to the set. Ruth, how do you feel about that?
I'm fine with either. I was kind of pushing to the next morning to maybe get a cozy scene in before we got going again.
Well, I was gonna, if we made it to the next day regardless, I was gonna let you clear Tipsy, just because I think that would be cleared. But if you continue in the night, though, Tipsy's still gonna be active. So
go ahead, Ru. Then you can decide.
Well, let's do it in the middle of the night then, so I can still be a little tipsy.
Okay, good.
All right.
I like always choose the role-playing choice. I think that's always the right move. Good. So in that case, we won't do cozy vignettes. We'll just pick up in the evening, in the middle of the night, probably what are we thinking? Like early morning, like 1, 2 a.m., something like that?
I would say maybe 4 a.m.
Okay, really? Okay, really
yeah,
early morning.
Early, it's still really dark out, and I think Laura really startled in bed, having this vision of these people in wooden masks that she saw, maybe having this dream that everybody on the set that she's envisioning has these wooden masks on. And when and then there is this barking of a dog, and I think it's kind of unclear whether she hears that in her dream or whether it's actually somewhere outside of the house. And I think she gets up and she makes herself a coffee, and then you can see her kind of deciding that, pouring it into a transportable cup and just getting out, and then kind of ringing the bell of Ruth's place.
Do you want that seat, or do we want to go straight to the set?
So all I would say is you're going to have to ring that bell quite a few times. I think Ruth is loudly snoring. You can hear her snoring from the front door as she's passed out back there.
I think maybe Laura goes around kind of hitting on the bedroom window, and then after a while Ruth wakes up and, hey, I really can't sleep. All of this stuff that we've seen in the last couple of days, and now we should really find out what happened there. The police is not going to help. Don't you think? I'm sorry to wake you up so early.
Oh yeah, no, I couldn't sleep either. You're right. There's a lot going on. So yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think we need to get going. Do you have an aspirin or something? I'm gonna get an aspirin, and then I'll meet you out front.
Okay, good.
All right, so we're heading back to the set then.
Yeah, good. So you get to the set, and because it's so late, there's really no one there. They have put up yellow police tape around Paul's trailer, and presumably they've taken the body somewhere. But there's no one around. It's an open set in terms of that it's not inside a building, right? There's a tent and everything. So you can kind of wander around as you wish. I think I'll just start with Ruth. What do you do right now?
So all of the stars are going to be in their trailers, right? Presumably.
Or they may have places in town too. So they may stay at a hotel. Yeah, because this is the right town for it, right? If you're gonna stay somewhere out of town.
True. Yeah. Well, I think that the one place we never really did much with was actually Paul Riviera's trailer, and kind of seeing what's up with him. So that would be my suggestion as to where we go.
Yeah, I can rattle off a few other places you might want to try to. There's actually a judge's tent like a little tent where they film scenes with the judges, where the judges are like conferring with each other. So that's a place you can go. Also, we haven't seen Sue's trailer or Jane's trailer either. So, or no, we did see Sue's. She had the comedy stuff. We haven't seen Jane's though. So, but Paul's trailer sounds great. Is that, what about you, Laura? Where are you headed?
I think for now I'm gonna stick with Ruth. I think we're contrary to, to the normal way that Laura does things. I think she will accompany Ruth to the trailer of Paul Riviera.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. I had to look away at something. Adrian, say that again.
Yeah. I think going to just accompany Ruth to the trailer. Yeah.
You get into the trailer, no problem. You can see various sticky notes and other things laid out that the police have put down. I think they've, made notes about how the body was found and put those on the ground, things like that. Ruth, what's your first move here? What are you doing?
I think I'm just poking around because, we've got a lot of information that maybe things were bad between him and like the rest of the cast and crew. So I think I'm just like, snooping around, like trying to look behind his piles of hair care products and stuff and see if I can find anything interesting.
Do the meddling move with, do it with reason. I think there's really nothing that would cause composure to come into play or anything like that.
That is a 6.
Okay, I was probably going to put you at disadvantage too. So yeah, but
okay, great.
the 6 doesn't really matter. You're good to go. We'll come back to that. Laura, what about you?
I think Laura is going to stop right, like in front of the trailer and kind of look around whether there's anything under it, maybe, or like if there might be like a trash bag, something that maybe they have put out the trash from the trailer or anything like that. So something around there.
Yeah, make the meddling move. I don't think your conditions really come into play here, so go ahead.
That's an 11, and what was that was probably reason, I guess.
Reason, yeah.
Okay, so that is 11.
11. Okay, very good.
I think I might actually push it to a 12.
Okay, sure.
And mark a crown of the queen.
Yeah, go ahead and mark it, and we'll come back to it.
Yeah, I'll do it later. Yeah.
So let me, with the 2 rolls on the table, let me kind of say how this is going to go. So you're getting a regular clue, you're getting a void clue, or possibly information about the midwives, and maybe something bad is going to happen as well. So I think you were able to get into the trailer, no problem. The door was unlocked. That is unusual, right? Especially for a crime scene, but the door was unlocked. And you begin looking around. It's not a very big trailer. And so you notice pretty quickly that in a chair at one end of the trailer is the fishmonger, Etienne Beauregard, who Laura, at least, and maybe presumably everyone, knows is involved in some kind of conspiracy in the town because of what happened at Snowdrop House. But Etienne Beauregard is sitting there, and he's wearing his normal fishmonger gear. He looks like he maybe got back from a late shift. He's got a, kind of a knit cap and denim dungarees, right? That kind of thing. And black work boots. And I'll remind you that he's a very healthy, hale guy. He's a little older, but he looks younger because of his just general fitness. And he says, I thought it was just a matter of time before one of you ladies would come snooping around.
Whoa. I had no idea he was there. But yeah, what are you doing here?
He says, well, I was just walking along a pier, along the boardwalk, through town, going back home, when I felt drawn to this place. And that's when I discovered a crime scene. And much like you, I couldn't overcome my curiosity. And so I jimmied the lock and came inside.
And then just sat in a dark chair in the corner, huh?
I have a bit of a love for the dramatic. I mean, I do put on performances when I'm selling my fish at the market. I'm sure you've seen me down there. I'm very popular with the ladies.
Yeah.
Laura, it's so good to see you.
It's good to see you as well, Etienne, I guess. How have you been? He's really kind of...
He says, I have been well. The stars are particularly bright in the sky most nights. And I feel something rising up slowly from the deep places, something heavy and heaving, something ready to awaken.
Well, I hope it's not one of the fish that you sell. We were just getting a head start on the final day of production today. You know, we are actually, you know, Ruth and I, we're actually part of the show here. We were contestants.
Yes. I had read that in the Beacon. It said that some locals were going to be participating, and they had a little cutout of your faces. Some of your friends, looks like they haven't taken a photo in recent years because they looked a bit young, in my opinion, but that's okay. Vanity is a cruel, cruel mistress.
Well, you always give a good performance as a younger man on when you're selling fish and when you're convincing the ladies that you're the stashing French fishmonger. In any
Everyone
case, we're
wears
here.
A mask in some way.
True. In any case, we're here. You know, there will be kind of post-competition interviews and reflection and so on. I think we should get to it, right, Ruth?
Yeah, that seems like a good idea. So are you just gonna hang out here at the end, or what's your plan?
He says, what is your plan? Why are you here?
Well, you know, I'm sure if you read the Beacon, you've heard about the many crimes we solved.
Ah,
so.
Yes, our crime-solving little old ladies of Brindlewood Bay. You are practically an institution in this town. Ladies, I'm here to tell you that these little investigations that you do are all for naught. You may figure out who killed Paul Riviera, just as you figured out who killed Letitia Dawes and others in this town. I'm here to tell you that this is just a fruitless exercise because there's something much bigger, much greater coming to this town, to this world, in fact. And there isn't anything you can do to stop it. And so I recommend you go home, dive deep into your hobbies, and with any luck, you will be taken by old age before the coming of the child.
Well, look, I'm worried about climate change too, but I mean, it doesn't mean that we should just stop living our lives.
He says, do you remember New Year's Eve, 2011? Brindlewood Bay was the convergence point for numerous doomsday prophets who believed the world would end in 2012. And if you recall, there was a massive end of the world party held in and around town. The next day, everyone moved on when they realized that there was nothing special about the year 2012. But some of us remained because some of us knew that this was the place we were supposed to be. We were just a few years early. I belong to a group called the Midwives of the Fragrant Void. We have very particular religious beliefs. And we are not content to simply chase the prophecies of ancient soothsayers, Mayan sorcerers, or anything like that. We are going to make our prophecy come true. We are going to bring forth something truly dark and terrible into this world because we honor the dark places, we honor the void. I would hate for you and your little club to get in our way.
I think Bruce kind of pulls Laura aside. This guy's nuts, right?
I think so. Like I said, I think we have to go prepare for the taping. And I think Laura's going to kind of move back away slowly and kind of try to move Ruth out of the door. I'm wondering whether there's any way. I think Laura would like to somehow close the door on him and maybe block it or something. I'm wondering whether this is a way where I could use the Cold Seavers move, a wild and daring physical feat. Like, I think capturing him as such might not be really in the style of what we're doing, but maybe like somehow getting out of there quickly, closing the door and maybe blocking it with like a broom or something. So
yeah, I'll even like force the issue a little bit because we have that 6- to kind of follow up on still.
Oh yeah.
And I think what he says is, in any case, I'm afraid I can't let you leave because you're getting too close to the truth. The midwives had nothing to do with this murder, but the murder is but a symptom of something bigger to come. And I can't have you out there stopping nature from taking its course. And so he pulls out a gun, says, this is very crude, but, well, the leader of our order thought it was too early to use our more powerful tools against you. And he aims. So what's the plan here, Laura?
Okay, in this case, I think, well, then maybe the most, the thing that makes the most sense is that really kind of grab something, maybe like a pan or something. There might be like a small kitchen or so in the trailer, and in a motion that is quicker than Etienne might have anticipated, kind of hit him on the arm that's holding the pistol, and then we just get like really, the pistol falls to the ground, and then we just get the hell out of there as quickly as we can.
Let's read the Cold Seavers move just to be reminded of what it does. So, Cult Seavers. Once per session, you can take a 12 plus on any roll related to a wild or daring physical feat. So this would be the night move, and we don't really have to talk about stakes because you're doing a 12 plus automatically. And so that all sounds great to me. You do get a bonus though, and the bonus is on the way out, Ruth is going to find a clue. So it's on a completely lost scene in that regard. I love it though. I think it's great. Let me tell you the clue that you find. Da, 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 da. On the way out, Ruth, you notice that Paul's Briddy Award, this is like a British television award, Paul's Briddy Award is shattered, and it's nowhere near where the body was. So it probably wasn't part of any scuffle or anything, and there's nothing else around it disturbed, but it's shattered on the ground, and that is your clue. Type it in.
I have to say, I love that he travels with his awards.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Probably because he has the Briddy Award and his other fellow judges and presenters do not. Paul's Shattered Briddy Award. Fabulous. And I think that probably just wraps up that night then. But
I was just about to suggest that maybe we could, I'm wondering whether this gets Laura and Ruth out of there, and maybe Laura would suggest something like, I think we should really get going, maybe get some breakfast and sit down at the harbor, maybe watch some birds or so to calm down. What do you think?
I was going to suggest some tea and stamp collecting.
Very good.
Well, aren't we? Yeah, exactly. What about we go to the harbor and we get some breakfast. We sit down. I'll see if I can find some old postcards or so. When everything opens up in the morning, we get some warm tea or so, and maybe some breakfast.
But before that, the opening credits are rolling. Let's have a cozy vignette, even though in time and temporally it makes no sense. That's part of the point of that. Narrate a short scene showing your Maven enjoying her life in Brindlewood Bay. It can be light and breezy or warm and cozy. And if you have a shadow in the garden marked, add a subtle dark element as well. Whoever wants to go, think on it for a minute. Whoever wants to go first, go for it.
Well, I do think that, just like I said before, I think one of the ways that Laura does her stamp collecting is to, there are these kind of antiquity shops, like some mixture between like a touristy souvenir shop and also kind of all sorts of old things that they sell, old books and so on. And I think Laura browses the kind of boxes there, always looking for these postcards or stamps from around the world, talking to the person that owns this shop, I think, and really getting lost in this activity of really, like she can do that for a long time, like a whole hour kind of spent in the shop and going through these letters and postcards and so on, searching something for her collection. And I think so that I think she has been going to this particular store for a while. And let's say the woman that owns it, Mary, she has become something or someone that Laura trusts. And when Laura leaves the shop, we see that Mary is reading something on the counter, and it's somehow there are these kind of dark shapes in some of the illustrations, underwater something, and it's and also I think again we see this these patterns that we have seen a number of times that we had in the first mystery in these illustrations.
Thank you. Ruth?
So I think Ruth is like at the harbor, and she's waiting for Laura to be done with her postcard shopping, and she's out on the pier, and she's got her binoculars, and she's like looking at the seabirds, and she has a little notebook, and she's like writing down what she sees, and then she looks up, and there's this like sailboat that starts riding by, and it just has like black sails and like a black hull, and just covered in ravens and crows that all just like watch her as it goes by, like their heads turn to just keep their gaze locked on Ruth as it goes by. She's like, "Oh wow, oh my, that's a lot of crows," and she just writes it down in the book.
The Flying Dutchman just shows up in
Yeah.
Brindlewood Bay. Good. So the next morning, which is really just a continuation of where we were, we find the two of you at you're having breakfast. It sounds like maybe that breakfast spot where you had breakfast with the Krauses, Laura. And is someone doing their cozy activity here? Bird watching? Is that what's happening here?
I was going to let Laura do hers because I have less conditions. So.
Oh, we both get to clear one regardless.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, I don't care, then.
Maybe it makes sense that you're telling me about the birds.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. I'll run down the list, and I have my phone out, and I'm like pulling up pictures of each one to show you.
One gets the impression that Ruth does this a lot, and
oh yeah.
and you just sort of like nod through it. Right? Good, I love it. Let's have the scene. Go for it.
So I found this duck here, and this is really rare for this time of year. Normally they're up in Canada by now, but like it's down here, and I'm a little worried about it because it looked a little sick, and I'm just worried that maybe it's not gonna make its migration today. But yeah, what can you do? It's the way nature is, right?
It is, dear. I'm really happy to hear about everything, all the birds and whatever new thing you have found, the fauna and everything. It's really incredible how much you can actually do here around Brindlewood Bay, and how many different birds you can see. But I'm really, I know that first, what this guy tonight, Etienne, what he told us seemed crazy, but then he pulled a real gun on us, and I'm not sure. And I've been seeing this, I really feel, I don't know. It's things have been coming back to me from before I moved here, and now there's this, I don't know how, I've seen this, at that place we were before, the tea house, there was this black dog. And did you see a dog there? It seemed to be always around.
No, I haven't seen anything like that.
I've been seeing it everywhere. I really don't know. It's all of this is really getting me. Having a gun pulled on us, maybe we should involve the police in all of this. Are you sure that we are able to do this alone?
Well, look, involving the police is the last thing we want if we're looking out for our safety. Okay, I've told you about the sheriff. I don't think we want to get him involved.
Well, no, I think you're right. I think the local, I mean, Sheriff Dalrymple never was, I mean, they are not even able to find out, like really solve mysteries like who parked in the wrong spot in the last weekend or so. Maybe there's another, but this seems serious, all of this that's going on. Maybe there's some other, especially Sheriff Dalrymple, they are not really able to do anything here.
Well, look, if it comes down to it, I can call Deputy Brett, and he's not good for much, but he's got muscles and a gun. So if it really comes down to it, we can get him involved.
Oh dear, I think yes. If you think that will help us, I'm sure you would be happy to see him again. But no, I'm wondering. I don't know. It's it has been really a couple of weird days. At least now we're having, the sun is up. It seems that today will be at least a nice day, and it starts with a good breakfast with you. So that's something.
That's true. It is really nice to actually take a moment and, just have a moment to breathe before, I think today we're jumping back in, right?
Well, we do have to go back and see how this whole taping of the show is going to. Are they finished? I completely lost every kind of understanding of what they were going to do after all of this there. But they did tell us to come back today, didn't I? Do you know? I'm not even sure.
They're done. They're still in town though, so this feels like a good place to pause the scene. How are we doing on conditions right now?
So am I clearing Tipsy from this, or should I
you
just go away?
You can take Tipsy automatically. Yeah, you can
Okay.
take that. You can take that automatically. If you want to try to clear another one though from the vulnerable, or not the vulnerable move, the cozy. What's it called? God, what's this move called that we're doing?
Cozy move.
The cozy move. Yeah, I did write the game. I promise. Yeah, if you want to take another one from the cozy move, you can definitely do that. And since it's your cozy activity, Dan or Ruth, you can also stumble onto a clue if you want.
Sure.
And you get to define the clue. So
right. Let me think on that for a minute.
Sure. I'll make a note that we need.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna clear horrified, right? Because at least now it's light out, the sun is out. I think the black dog is still troubling Laura, and the clouded past also we haven't really explored yet. So
yeah. Fantastic. So we'll stumble on a clue, and were you clearing another condition, Ruth?
Yes. So brave face.
Okay, interesting. I kind of well, I'm curious how that is in the scene. What are you thinking there? Is how is that affected?
So I think just having time to actually talk about what's going on and everything is gives her time to process, and especially talking through the stuff with the sheriff, because that was kind of the source of it, and being we're doing this on our own, we're not dealing with the sheriff and all of that, kind of having that set in her mind is a way of getting past that.
So well, yeah, especially if we consider brave face to be almost more like an artifice, right? It's almost like you're facing the truth of what's going on. So it's good. Fabulous. So it is the next day. The Jolly Good Baking Show production will be here for probably a couple more days, just to break down everything and kind of deal with local things they have to deal with before they get on planes and go back to the UK. Buck isn't going anywhere, as far as we know. And Scott theoretically lives in Brindlewood Bay, although his lease is probably ending very soon, since he only moved here as a bit of stunt casting for the show. And Melanie lives here as well. So even if the production moves on, some elements, some suspects will stay, but the production is still here. So with all that in mind, Laura, what do you want to do?
I think I'm kind of wondering whether we actually want to go back to the set after that night as such. So maybe if there's I think if there's another place that seems where we might find some of the people that were involved in the production, for now, I think Laura would suggest that that's where Ruth and her should go.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ruth, what you're thinking?
So I don't know, man. Maybe like, should we talk to Buck? Because Buck, we haven't really done anything with. He's a local.
Yeah, you might know Buck's mom or something, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I would be totally happy dropping in at Buck's house.
We can even say that Buck lives with his mom. How about that?
That sounds great.
Yeah, he's got like a man cave in the basement or something. So Buck doesn't have a last name, and I like him not having a last name. So we'll just call his mom Cheryl. So you know Cheryl, probably from some activity in town, bridge or something. And they live on what is generally considered like the outskirts of Brindlewood Bay, the not tourist ready, kind of slightly more rough and tumble part of town. And yeah, so you're there. So what do you do?
Well, so who answers the door?
Cheryl does.
Okay, great. So we should.
She says, Ruth, hi.
Hi, Cheryl.
How did everything? I don't know if you can say or not, but how did everything go on the Jolly Good Baking Show? Did you win?
No, I didn't win. Don't tell anybody. But it wasn't my finest hour there. I did really good up to the end, but it didn't go great.
Laura, are you able to say, did you win, Laura? She's saying it real quietly as if someone can hear you.
I think Laura is kind of rolling her eyes and it's like, no, Cheryl, I didn't. I'm really not. Well, you must have heard, right? At least from Buck that.
Well, Buck hasn't been home since Buck's. I don't know. He hasn't pretty much ever since the production rolled into town. I haven't seen Buck. He's got. I don't know. I think he's dating somebody from the production, at least based off of.
Oh, okay. So I think she kind of reverses course, and she's like, "Yeah, well, no, I didn't win." And but Buck asked us to actually. Today is going to be the last day of taping, and well, he asked us to bring something from his room for like this technical stuff, something for the camera.
Sure. It's funny he would ask you to do that, but yeah, of course, come on in. She lets you in.
Well, we're not really needed anymore, for the final scenes because we both didn't win apparently, right? But
does that mean Ida or
I don't think we're at liberty to say.
Or Esther has a chance. She does a little like zip, like got it. She won't say anything. Come on in, ladies. And she seems really excited because I think she thinks that either Ida or Esther won, right? And so she's like, well, his room is down here. Go ahead and I don't know anything about the technical stuff that Buck does. It sounds like you know what you're looking for, though. Just let me know if you need anything. I've got something in the oven that I'm something for the potluck at church later today. So she leaves you
Oh,
to it.
what are you cooking? Let's do you have maybe a glass of water or something? And I think Laura would go with her into the kitchen and
She says, well, it's not Jolly Good Baking Show level of baking. I'll tell you that right now. It's cup of flour, cup of sugar, cup of fruit cocktail. You mix it all together and bake at 350 until warm and bubbly. And when you walk in there, you can smell hot, syrupy baking going on, right? And yeah, she gets you a glass of water. What are you doing, Ruth?
Well, so I guess since Ruth got volunteered to do the dirty work, she's going to go downstairs and snoop around.
Good. Do a meddling. Well, let's go down to his pad first of all. I don't have a paint the scene here in the mystery, but I'll just make up one. What do we see in Buck's man cave in his mother's house that shows us that even though Buck is like in his late 40s, he's never really quite escaped his young teenage years in Brindlewood Bay, Arrested Development, if you will.
Oh, he's got his like high school varsity Letterman jacket hanging up on the wall from his football days.
Nice.
I think he has like a large collection of Dungeons and Dragons books.
I felt called out. Okay, good. Great. I love it. Let's get the dice on the table and then we'll take a break. So Ruth, do a meddling move with, I would say, reason for now.
Okay. That is an 11. An 11, yeah.
Nice. I'll give you the clue when we come back. We'll come back in 5.
Sounds good.
Ruth, we'll get to your clue in a moment. Laura, I'm curious, are you doing anything as you chat with Cheryl in the kitchen? Or
I think so. I think Laura is kind of getting into this, you said that he's having a fling with someone on the set, and that's really interesting. I mean, these people, but is that something like with one of these people from the UK kind of over here for a while, and kind of getting into like, are you not afraid, like if this becomes serious, then he might actually finally move out and move to the UK or something like that, or
She says, I have no complaints about this. If that ends up being circumstance, I would buy his plane ticket to London, Laura. If I thought he was going to go chasing love somewhere out of my house, I would be very, very pleased by that. So I encourage it, she says, as she pulls out this casserole dish of this bubbling, sugary concoction. And she says, do you want to try a bit of this? And she says, I normally serve it with vanilla ice cream to cut the sweetness. And she kind of, scoops a little bit and puts it in a bowl for you.
Sure.
It's revolting. How do you respond?
I think I think Laura does kind of this because apparently Cheryl is like a fan of the Brindlewood, the Great Bake Off, right? So I think Laura does this kind of impression of one of the judges and saying like something like, "Oh, this is really delicious and delightful."
Good. Yeah, she'll appreciate the Jolly Good Baking Show connection there. So Ruth, you are poking around and you find the sorts of things you would expect to find. There's a very distinct odor down here, like kind of a combination of like locker room and Axe body spray and unwashed carpet. And you're going through things and you notice there's a plastic crate filled with records, and the records are a little bit askew, and you pull them, maybe you're just flipping through them, you pull them back, and underneath the records at the bottom of the crate is an open box of rat poison. That is your clue.
All right. Oh, so I can define the previous clue also if you want. So I think that
Go for it.
As we're doing our cozy thing, Ruth notices that she has like a voicemail on her phone, and I think it's a butt dial from Donna Riviera, and she's discussing blackmail. I think that's probably as defined as we want it.
So it was from Donna to who?
I don't think we know. Donna just butt dialed Ruth, and you can hear her discussing this blackmail plot.
How'd she get Ruth's phone number?
Oh, because we got drunk together.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah, we're friends now. So
yeah. Is she the blackmailer, did it sound like, or was she?
I think it's unclear.
Unclear. Okay. I'm just gonna put Donna Riviera caught discussing a blackmail.
Sounds good, yeah.
Good. Well, you're at 8 clues, which is one more than the complexity. So maybe not in too bad shape to start theorizing, but we can go deeper though. So Ruth, we'll assume you come back upstairs at some point and join the other two ladies in the kitchen. Then what?
So I think I've definitely got just a random piece of computer equipment. I've got a USB drive, and I'm holding it up by the cable, and I'm like, got it.
I love it.
I think so. We know who Buck is having an affair with, right? But I think Laura is not really telling Cheryl. So I think Laura is kind of pushing a bit deeper towards that kind of, well, but he must have said something about who that mystery person is and what they are planning together, or is that, do you really think it could be that serious? And what have they, did Buck tell you anything about them? And trying to find out whether she has heard anything from Buck that might be helpful to us.
Yeah, do meddling move with presence.
Oh, snake eyes. That's a tree.
She says, I just love this recipe. It's so good. She's just eating. Scoop, scoop, scoop. And she's got a little bit of crust and syrup dribbling down her chin. And she says, you should take another bite. She's like, you can finish it off. I won't tell anyone. Ruth?
Oh, no, I can't. I'm diabetic.
She's like, and she looks at you, she's like, I would have guessed that. I'm so sorry to hear. And she says, well, that's a really interesting question, Laura. And she's like, oh, I'm gonna have to ask, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to cut this short and ask you ladies to leave. I quite suddenly don't feel very good. Oh, and she's like, I need to lay down. And she sort of walks out of the kitchen, stumbles towards the door to let you both out.
Okay. Well, it was delicious, and well, let's hope that Buck is really going to be well, that this is really the one, that lets him finally find some place for him in life.
As you're leaving, she grabs you, Laura, by the shoulder and says, Laura, I overheard something I wasn't supposed to hear. I don't know. I think Buck's involved in something really dangerous. He was so angry. And I need to sit down. And she collapses right there at the door.
Cheryl? Hey, Cheryl, Ruth, what do we do? I think we need to call an ambulance.
Yeah. Do you know CPR?
Well, I can try. I mean, and I think that's what Laura is going to do. Trying to try to remember whatever she can from her from some form of training, first aid training or
Right.
something.
Indeed. Ruth, are you going to call an ambulance or?
Yeah, I think I'll call 911.
The EMTs will eventually get there. I don't think you have any luck with Cheryl, and she's not dead, but she's passed out. Maybe you're able to kind of keep her awake enough for the EMTs to come and collect her. And Sheriff Dalrymple's there, and he says, how come whenever something like this happens, one of you murder mavens is always around?
Well, look, I'm really overwhelmed here. This is reminding me a lot of when Jim passed, and I just need to get out of here. And I'm gonna just try to push past him and get outside.
He says, don't go far, Ruth.
Yeah, definitely just gonna grab Laura and get the hell out of there.
As you're leaving, he says, I'm going to need you to stay in town. I might have questions.
Okay, yeah. I'm pushing Laura into the car at this point.
Let's just have that scene in the car.
Yeah, so I think Ruth legit is freaked out about this, because it was kind of it does remind her of how her husband died, and she's I had just the same thing. He was fine, and then he collapsed, and I called 911, and it just took so long for them to get there, and she's just almost hyperventilating, relating this story.
Yeah, take shaken as a condition.
Oh dear, I'm so sorry. This must be horrible for you. It's really, I don't know. I hope it's not something of that horrible, whatever you call it, that she made. I had some of that before you came up from the cellar. It really tasted awful. In any case, this is really. She was just about to tell us something, so maybe Buck is involved in this much more than we might have thought. Maybe we should try to figure out, well, what he's up to, and where now that we know where to look, maybe we can find something else on the set. I think now with the light out, with the sun out, I'm not that scared anymore to go back there, even though we had a really still kind of very weird encounter there tonight. What do you think? It might take our minds off of what all the other things going on.
Well, I mean, I'm up for anything that'll take our minds off of that. And I'll mention the rat poison and all of that. So like clearly there's, maybe it's nothing, but maybe Buck's up to no good. And we know he was involved with Donna. And who I'd like to talk to though is Jane Leaf. I feel like we haven't really done much with her. I'd like to get her perspective on this.
You're right.
So heading back to set then.
Is that where Jane would be?
Maybe not. No, she might be staying at she's staying at Snowdrop House.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that would be great. So you can find that out. You probably would have learned that during filming.
Right.
Heading back to Snowdrop House, who was arrested for that murder? That was
the old lady.
Yes.
Right, Mrs. Carfax, right. Yeah.
Carfax.
Yeah, who is still that's fairly recent. So I think you're there and you go in and Ava Cole is at the front desk and she says, "Oh, are you here to ruin my business some more?"
You think you would be a little more grateful after we removed a murderer from under your roof?
She's like, "Yes, well, I suppose I would be grateful, but I don't have the constitution for gratitude, unfortunately."
That is unfortunate.
How can I help you, ladies?
Well, we're just here to talk to Jane Leaf.
Oh, our celebrity guest. Yes. She may be in her room. I'll give her a ring. One moment. Should I tell her who is calling?
Sure, you can. Yeah, and I'd take an iced tea while we're waiting. No pomegranate juice, though.
She's like, haha. And she's like, ever since Percy left, I have to do all this stuff for myself. If you know anybody who is willing to work kitchen and dining room, send them my way. And she sort of she kind of goes upstairs to go see if Jane is in her room, and as so often happens, leaves you there for a moment in the lobby. What do you do?
I think Laura is kind of going, at least sneak a peek towards the kitchen where she saw the black dog for the first time. It's like, I was just about to ask about Percy, but it seems that he really left. Well, and she's kind of wandering over there and seeing, but maybe, yeah, I'll just have a look around, Ruth, if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah, I'll just wait here. And she's just sip on her tea, listen to the birds.
The guest book is open.
Well, I mean, I'll definitely be perusing that.
Jane Leaf registered under her non-stage name, her real name, which is Jane Carfax.
Dun dun dun. I will definitely point that out to Laura. And Jane Carfax. what is going on here? Do you think, could it, I mean, that's quite a coincidence, right?
Seems to be too much of a coincidence. Well, we should find out something more about that if we can.
Ava comes down. She says, Ms. Leaf is in her room taking tea. I'll have something brought up if you want to go up and meet with her. She says she'd be happy to receive you.
Great, let's do it.
Let's go.
You walk inside, you go up. Her room is Mrs. Carfax's old room. When you go inside, either these decorations were already here or she has spruced up the place a little bit. But in any case, I paint the scene question. What do we see in here that reflects Jane's very posh femininity?
A whole lot of very fashionable hats.
I was just about to say exactly the same thing. So I think on the table there are all these fashion magazines, like, you know, these thick, very high class Vogue and so on fashion magazines.
Jane is there. She's wearing a bright pink blazer and capri pants, and she's sitting at a table drinking tea. And she has like hair that's like it's very like a bottle job blonde hair, right? I mean, her hair would, at her age, she's older than you even, she would not be. she dyes her hair basically, and it's a bit of a contrast to her like quite prunish sort of like skin, right? And she says, Ruth, Laura, Mrs. Cole said you were here to see me. Please come in, come in. I'm so sorry about the results of the bake-off, but, well, your cakes were a bit of a disaster, weren't they? Would you like some tea?
Sure.
Dreadful, this whole business with Paul. Everyone in the whole production company is quite shaken about it, trying to figure out how to go public with it still. Very, very tricky stuff. I'm just happy that I got to know him when I did.
Well, I'm sure that, you know, as long as you're still there, I'm sure that the jolly good baking show will continue. I mean, you were really the heart of the program anyway.
I think so too, Ruth. Thank you for saying that. Paul was very good at the social media, but yes, I think people considered me the more knowledgeable judge, the more grounded judge, the more British judge. Yes, well, I wonder who they'll get in to replace him.
Well, I mean, I'm sure some eye candy who doesn't know his puddings from his pies.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, to what do I owe this visit?
Well, you know, we were just trying to process everything that happened, and, you know, it's just kind of talking to people and getting our feelings out there. And, you know, maybe it's a little bit too American of us to say that, but I feel like that's a great way to deal with trauma like
You
this.
Americans do possess an earnestness that we don't have across the pond. It's what makes you charming, if somewhat occasionally like a bull in a china shop. I think that's a saying you have over here, right?
It is. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's not much to process. I only knew the man professionally, and we weren't famous friends or anything, that's for sure.
No, I heard that you were, you know, Sue mentioned that you didn't really get along back, you know, behind the scenes.
Well, this is the way it goes in television, dear. I mean, if you think back to, what's that lovely program that, I Love Lucy, yes? The The actors who played Fred and Ethel Mertz absolutely despised each other, but on camera, they were loving and funny, and the viewer knew none the wiser. This is very common.
Oh, I'm sure it is, yeah. But, it's just that I'm sure that it puts you in an awkward position, what with Paul being dead now and you having this, well-known animosity toward each other.
I don't know how well known it is. I think people generally consider me to be, well, I'm a national treasure, aren't I?
Well, absolutely.
Animosity is not a noun that I am normally associated with.
Well, I assume that most of the animosity came from Paul's direction, obviously.
Well, obviously. Laura, dear, what do you think about all this?
Well, I think the show somehow must go on, but I'm wondering, what is going to happen now after you leave from here? Are you going to, who is going to stay involved in the show? What do you think?
Well, I think we should just do our best to move on, won't we? I mean, they'll replace Paul, of course, and we'll pick up another regular season back in the UK, and viewers won't like the replacement, of course, and but I'm sure the producers will find a way to turn Paul's death into something that we can all mourn together,
Do you really think that Donna is going to accept this so easily?
Here I want the meddling move. Make a meddling move with presence is fine. I want you to roll at a disadvantage though, because of your, what is it, the clouded thing? Your clouded past. I think it makes you somewhat untrustworthy.
That's a 7.
Let me take a look. What did you ask her about Donna just now?
Whether Donna will actually be okay with Paul just being replaced and the show going continuing.
She says, well, that's a very interesting question. Donna Riviera is a trashy woman, let's face it. She is the root of most of the drama that takes place behind the scenes, but you didn't hear that from me. Paul wanted more money, of course, and was threatening to essentially shut the show down by not participating and by making a big fuss if production didn't meet his rather exorbitant contractual demands. And that was all coming from our dear Donna. She loves the money and the lifestyle that her husband's popularity brings, and I think she somewhat resents the show as a general matter because, well, let's face it, the Real Scouswives of Liverpool barely lasted a season, and, well, the Jolly Good Baking Show is the most popular television program in the country, if not the world, depending on who you ask and how you measure these things. And so Donna is always going to be a bit of a thorn in production's side. In fact, Heath, our lovely producer, on his birthday last year, Donna made a cake for him. Well, in truth, Paul probably made the cake, but Donna decorated it with blood red icing. And I shall not repeat the words that she called Heath because they are not the sorts of words that someone should say out loud. They are quite dreadful. But needless to say, Donna was very, very angry at Heath about the way he was handling the show. And that's your clue. A cake delivered to Heath with foul messages and blood red icing from Donna specifically. And I think we lost Adrian there.
So you think that?
Oh, you're breaking up just a little bit, Adrian. Hold on.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. After she tells you this, and because there is a complication that I have to give you, she says, "Now, I don't mean to rush you, but I have some old friends in town that I'm meeting with soon, and well, it's sort of private business." She says, "You know, my sister lives in Brindlewood Bay. Did you know that? Well, she did."
I did not.
Yes. She's English originally, and she came here many years ago on family business, and she loved it, so she never left. And now she's in a bit of legal trouble, but I'm sure you know all about that, don't you?
Well, is it? What is the problem? I think Laura is kind of. We might, of course, already suspect what she's saying, but I think we're feigning innocence. Like,
she says, "My sister. You'll know the surname Carfax. That's our family name."
oh, so you and her and okay, that I'm so sorry to hear this, Jane.
Well, I would be, I'd be lying if I said that part of the reason why I pushed production to film a special episode here in Brindlewood Bay is because I wanted to follow up on my sister's situation. Hey, Alicia, how'd your shot go?
It was good. It was good. You know,
Good.
shoddy.
Good. We are just in the middle of a scene, but we'll catch up in a minute.
Well, so
she says, "My friends will be here momentarily, and trust me, the two of you especially don't want to be here when they arrive."
Yes, I think we won't want no more part of that. You can be sure of that. Ruth, I think it's time for us to go.
Ruth is like, "Wait, what?" She's been trying on hats the whole time.
And let's catch up, Alicia, with what's going on. So we'll give you the fast and dirty version here, Alicia. So after the baking competition, everybody went home. But in the middle of the night, Laura woke up at like 4 a.m. and went and dragged Ruth out of bed, and they went back to set, which was empty at this point. They went into Paul's trailer. The door was unlocked, curiously, despite the fact it's a crime scene. They went in and they discovered Etienne Beauregard sitting in the dark in Paul's trailer. And Etienne basically rattled off a bunch of lore about the midwives and even revealed that he's a member of a group called the Midwives of the Fragrant Void, and even warned the murder mavens to just let events take their course, to stop getting involved, and so forth. And then he pulled a gun on them, and they ran. They managed to find a clue on the way, though, and that clue was on the way out. Paul has a a Briddy Award, which is like the television award that he had, and it was shattered. Like someone had shattered Paul's Briddy Award. That was the clue. They went just kind of straight into that morning, essentially, having having breakfast at Laura's favorite breakfast spot, watching the birds, and essentially they stumbled on a clue because it was the cozy move, and the clue was Donna Riviera butt dialed Ruth by accident because they got drunk together, so she had her phone number. Butt dialed Ruth, and Ruth overheard a conversation about blackmail. Donna was like talking about blackmail, and Donna didn't realize that she had called Ruth accidentally. And so that's all we know is there's some kind of blackmail, and Donna's either a victim or a perpetrator in some way. And there's another actor as well. Later, Laura and Ruth went to the home of a new character named Cheryl, whose son is Buck, the cameraman who lives in her basement. And so they went there, and they had some of Cheryl's horrible baking. And Ruth snuck around in Buck's room under the pretense that they were picking up a piece of equipment for him, and found an open box of rat poison in Buck's room. That scene ended with Cheryl, something making Cheryl sick and her collapsing, and EMTs having to be called, and the sheriff coming, and basically kind of like hinting that maybe Ruth and Laura had something to do with whatever just happened to Cheryl. But in any case, before she collapsed, Cheryl was trying to tell them something. She overheard something she wasn't supposed to hear, and Buck got very angry. But before she could say what she heard, she got sick and collapsed. We think it's because of the stuff that something was tainted that she was cooking, this thing she was baking. And from there, the last scene that you kind of picked up on, we discovered that Jane Leaf, the other judge, is staying at Snowdrop House. And so they went to Snowdrop House, returned to Snowdrop House to go just chat with Jane, because they hadn't really talked to Jane yet about all the events of Paul's death and everything. And while they were waiting on whether they could go up to see Jane or not, they poked their nose in the guest book, only to discover that Jane registered under her non-stage name of Jane Carfax. And they went up to chat with Jane, and Jane revealed to them that, was there a clue there that we got just then? There was a clue, right? It was, the cake. Jane revealed that Donna has a very antagonistic relationship with the Jolly Good Baking Show. She even sent a cake to Heath Hendricks, the producer, once on his birthday, with like all kinds of like horrible, dirty messages, rude messages written in blood red icing on the cake. So basically, Donna has a lot of problems with the show for some reason. And then Jane revealed herself to be the sister of Mrs. Carfax, that she was there in town in part to follow up on her sister's case and to check in on her. She's also staying in Mrs. Carfax's room at Snowdrop House, and that she has some friends that she's meeting with soon, some old family friends, and that those friends would not like to see Ruth and Laura there, so they better go. And that is hinting that Jane's also involved in the conspiracy, and that maybe the conspiracy started in England and it's a family affair. So that is where we're at right now. And so we will be joined by Esther. Maybe we'll just have the three of you meeting like at the front of Snowdrop House. Maybe Esther, you got word that they were going to Snowdrop House, and you met them there. You're there with Bo, and let's just pick it up from there.
Oh, Esther, you would not believe the day we've had.
I'm so sad that I missed it. Tell me all the salacious details, please.
Oh.
Salacious details are revealed.
Exactly.
So that's a lot. That's a lot.
Tell me about it.
I really don't want to stay here any longer than we have to, especially now that these so-called friends of the Jane Colfax apparently are coming around. I really don't like this place here. Can we just go somewhere? I don't know. Can we maybe go to your place, Esther, or somewhere? I think I need a break.
Yeah, of course. I just made cookies this morning while you were all having an adventure. So we'll relax, we'll have tea and cookies, and we'll figure out our next steps.
Indeed.
That sounds good.
So we don't have David today, Alicia, as you may have noticed, but so I guess like what's your next move here? You have 9 clues. That's quite a lot on a complexity 7 mystery. You've learned a lot of lore stuff about Brindlewood Bay and the conspiracy, but that's somewhat adjacent to the murder here. Etienne even said the midwives had nothing to do with Paul's murder. He was just drawn to the trailer that night because of the negative energy, basically. And so he was there soaking it up. So yeah, what are we thinking here? What's going on?
So I'm happy to theorize at this point. I think we could probably make this work.
Do you have an opening theory here?
So my theory is that Donna Riviera is being blackmailed because she's banging the British Prime Minister, and she's being blackmailed by Timothy Bush, and that's why he has the letters.
Oh, interesting. That's a great theory. There's a lot of clues here that like make you wonder where that's coming from or how that fits in. So do you want to start making your case here?
Sure. So Buck and Donna having a fling, like I think Buck is being used in this situation, right? Like, so if anybody was like gonna kill Paul, it's probably like Buck's dumbass, right? Like if Donna needed money or something, like she probably stands to gain some money if Paul dies. So like, that's what I'm thinking with the Buck situation is like, she was maybe using Buck to be the one to pull the trigger on this. So the Sue thing, I'm not sure where she comes in. So that's where I would like, ask for some help on that.
Yeah, a few of the clues are definitely wrapped up in this idea of, if you go with this theory of basically Donna was being blackmailed, and so she needs money, and so she was basically trying to collect insurance or whatever on Paul and kind of set a lot of this up. A lot of things fall into place. Some of these clues fall into place, especially basically anything to do with Donna, anything to do with Heath. The Bridie Award might even represent some basic jealousy because she used to be a reality TV star also, but not nearly as popular as him. That came up earlier. The clues that maybe don't fit so well are, Sue's involvement for sure. That's the big one. But,
so
any alternate theories at this point? Yeah, any alternate theories from Laura or Esther?
Okay, so you're suggesting that Donna was having an affair with the British Prime Minister.
Absolutely.
So what if Paul was jealous? Maybe Paul either liked Donna or the British Prime Minister.
Or the British Prime Minister,
way.
right? Well, we know Paul is at least bisexual or possibly pansexual. He has because of Scott, right? So that makes a certain degree of sense.
And
then continue.
was,
sorry, yeah. So, Alicia, what were you saying?
He would also maybe, so there's like that romantic aspect of jealousy, but also like Paul seems like someone who maybe is particularly interested in where people can get him, right? And so Jane having this sort of advantage over him might have been a problem. And so maybe he knew about it and they had like butting heads, and Sue was sort of witness to that.
So do you think then basically Paul found out about all of this, and Buck, because the question is like, why are Buck and Donna having an affair? And maybe Donna was really just leading Buck on and really kind of using him to
kill Paul.
To kill Paul, yeah. With the rat poison and everything.
Let's walk through the clues. So I don't think we've quite established how Sue Sue suggesting that there's no love lost between Jane and Paul. I'm not sure how that's connected yet, because it's unclear how Jane is connected, if at all, or Sue. Buck and Donna having a fling, this makes sense if we're going with the Donna's being blackmailed by Timothy theory. Not sure how about Sue asking for money. That is not clear either. The unreasonable contractual demand, I'm not sure how that fits in either, honestly. The ones that fit best are Buck and Donna having text messages. The British Prime Minister, obviously the love letters were from the British Prime Minister to Donna. Is that what we're saying, Dan?
That was my first thought, yeah.
Yeah. And then the Shattered Britty Award, that can be a lot of different things, but Donna Riviera discussing blackmail makes sense. The rat poison makes sense. That's how he would have killed Paul. And so, I mean, I think with that theory, we've got 4 pretty solid clues.
So maybe there's something, because, I mean, the question, of course, is why would Donna get rid of Paul? That is basically her financial security, right? Because of the show. But of course, if her new partner would be the British Prime Minister, then she doesn't really need Paul. So maybe these troubles that Paul's unreasonable contractual demand and all of that.
It was established. Established, Alicia, that was Paul making unreasonable contractual demands.
I think so. Yeah,
that came up in the last scene. So,
so, and also the Shattered Award. Maybe the whole thing that Donna starting this affair was that she knew that there was going to be a kind of an implosion among the people involved in the show. Like it was unclear whether there would be a new season, because there was this trouble between Jane and Paul was making these contractual demands, and they were not really willing to fill that. And maybe that's why maybe Paul used his Britty Award to kind of tell Jane, and tell all the others, like, look, I'm the star of this show, and without me you're nothing. And then she just broke it, like, she threw it on the ground, said, like, no, we can do this without you. And there was this whole drama going on between all of them in the background.
Go
ahead, Alicia.
What if Paul is broke? And so that's why Donna is, she's got the Prime Minister on the line here, right? And it's why Paul couldn't give Sue any money. It's why he's making unreasonable demand. It could explain maybe why, depending on like the breadth of why he's broke, there could be tension between him and Jane. Is he like misspending show funds? Is he causing problems there?
Or that could just be the contractual demands, like Adrian said too. Like, just he's threatening to ruin the show basically if he doesn't get what he wants, But yeah, I think that fits into it for sure. So how does that connect up to Donna's plan then?
Yeah, so
or the blackmail of Donna, because if we're saying that's what kicked everything off, why does Donna go kill Paul?
is it possible that Paul was blackmailing Donna somehow?
Oh yeah, maybe. Oh, truly blackmailing the prime minister, right? Probably.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah,
that probably makes more sense.
Right.
Okay, I'm liking that. So we've got this accounts for more clues for sure. Not sure about the Britty Award yet. Not
I
sure
mean,
about
that
the
could just
cake.
be general marital
Jealousy,
strife. Yeah.
Okay, how did Timothy have the letters then? If Timothy wasn't involved in the blackmail, or was he involved in the blackmail? Was he like Paul's agent in this?
Right, either Paul's agent or just Paul stashed them in Timothy's trailer without Timothy even knowing. Like he could be completely uninvolved.
That is true. So we're saying the Britty Award is just a general sort of jealousy. And what about the cake to Heath? Like what is it with Donna's animosity towards the production?
Maybe she was originally on board with trying to get more money from the show, and that was like her part of it. Maybe trying to send these threatening messages to be like,
oh, she was like in the thick of it.
Yeah. And then when it was clear that it wasn't going to go her way, she was like, anyway, peace out, because I'm
right. Okay, so I like that. Let's recap. So our basic theory is that Paul was blackmailing the Prime Minister of the UK, and Donna doesn't want this to get out. She's trying to defend her lover, and so she hires, or not hires, but convinces Buck to poison Paul, right? I like all that. We know that, and key to this is that Paul needed money. And so this explains several things. Okay, so the love lost between Jane and Paul is strictly because of Paul's unreasonable contractual demands, because he needs the money. Buck and Donna are having a fling. This is just how Donna manipulates Buck into doing what she wants. Sue asked Paul for money, but he turned her down. It's because he was broke. The unreasonable contractual demands are because he's broke. The love letters from the British Prime Minister establishes the relationship between Donna and the British Prime Minister, and these were being stashed. These were either being stashed in Timothy's trailer, or Timothy is aware of what's going on. The Britty Award is just a general anger at Paul because he sounds like kind of a jerk. It's easily explained away in any case because of all the drama. Donna Riviera, obviously involved in blackmail. The rat poison explains how Paul's killed. And then the cake to Heath, this is from the past and just shows that Donna at one point was very invested in Paul getting what he wanted from production. Well, it seems like she's moved on. I like it. I think it's a good theory. It makes a lot of sense. It's juicy. Anything to add or change? It's good. Let's have some dice then. Since you're just now joining us, Alicia, go ahead and, Alicia, go ahead and roll. Straight up 2d6 plus 2.
Let me get my dice out here. One. There's another one. I see it. So that is an 8.
So per the move, on a 7 to 9, it's the correct solution. Congratulations. But I will either add an unwelcome complication to the solution itself, or present a complicated or dangerous opportunity to take down the culprit or save the day. And the culprit being Donna and Buck, right? I like it. Where are you all going to make your accusation? Where's this going to go down? Where and how?
Somewhere with good acoustics, because I'm definitely recording this for the podcast.
That's right, the podcast. I forgot about that. It's good to be reminded of it. On set, or are you going to gather everybody? Are you getting the sheriff involved? What do you think?
I feel like on set is good. Preferably not with the sheriff, though, because I think he might not like us very much.
Yeah, my thoughts exactly. We can call Deputy Brett.
Yeah, Brett. Yeah. Brett's been like the good cop stand-in right now. They talked about that earlier. If they need just like, what was your quote? If we end up needing somebody with muscles and a gun,
Yeah.
Brett. So, although he's a bike cop and doesn't have a gun, but never mind. So, we have the yard people here. Sorry. I love it. So you've got Deputy Brett there. Everyone is gathered. You are making your accusation. Buck is not around. Donna's there. And I think Donna is even like, she's like, fine, you got me. And she's sort of like, she's like, but don't I have diplomatic immunity or some such thing? And there's a whole like thing or whatever. Brett's getting ready to take her in. Buck is in his truck, and he is he's a few hundred feet away in his truck, and he's revving the engine, and he's like, you're not gonna and he screams out the side of the window, you're not taking me in, you're not taking any of us in. She's like, no one's going anywhere. And he changes the clutch, and the truck flies forward. It's going to crash into you all. Esther, what do you do?
I grab Bo and just jump out of the way.
Okay. Laura, you don't have your Colt Sievers anymore. This would be perfect for that. But what do you do?
I guess also, try to just get out of the way if possible.
Ruth?
I feel like this is an excellent MacGyver situation. So can y'all tell me what's around?
Yeah, we each have to give you one random thing that you can MacGyver into the situation. I like it.
I think from cleaning up like the production, there's like a box of nails.
I'm going to say that there are bunting, like rolled up bunting, stack of it.
There are 2 large, heavy equipment cases within some sort of close proximity. Big black and silver equipment cases.
So you've got 3 things there. As long as you work at least one of them into your action, you get to roll advantage. I think it's going to be the night move, even though it's probably closer to dusk, but that's okay. What are you afraid will happen if you fail here? First of all, what are you trying to accomplish specifically?
So I'm trying to disable the truck.
Okay, good. What are you afraid will happen if you fail?
I'm afraid I will get hit by the truck.
Yes, it's worse than that. You will get pulverized by the truck and be dead. You will be like a slick of raspberry jam on the concrete.
All right, that does sound bad. Okay, so I'm not sure what I'm doing with the bunting. I think that might not come into it, but I think these are like, I'm assuming these are big like Pelican cases or something. They're like super, like cushiony. So I'm just throwing the nails on the ground, and then as soon as the truck's coming at me, I'm just putting myself in one of these cases and like closing it. I'm doing like an Indiana Jones in the refrigerator thing.
I love it. So you see Buck he's getting ready to, like, I think he's having some trouble like shifting gears. It gives you time to get there, and like you're throwing nails on the ground and diving into a case. It's so ridiculous, but I love it. Let's have the roll. You don't have any applicable conditions, so roll with vitality.
Okay, and do I roll with advantage on this since
Advantage,
I MacGyvered it? Okay. That's an 11. No, that's a 12, baby.
Nice. Give us a scene. How do you stop Buck?
Yeah, so I think that everything we said happens, and like the tires all pop dramatically as he like rolls over these nails, and the case sort of rolls out of the way as it's been hit, and like I'm kind of rolling downhill, and somebody grabs the case and stops it, and pop the top, and I'm like, I've got like my recorder, and I'm like, did we get him?
Good. I love it. Here's your bonus. You can decide how much of a bonus you think this is, but it's a bonus of sorts since you got 12 plus. After this is all over, Jane Leaf approaches the three of you, and she says, I just wanted to congratulate the three of you for figuring out this dastardly plot and revealing it.
Yeah, anytime.
It's rather shocking, isn't it? All of this murder, death. I've been put off a little bit by the whole thing. And you asked me earlier, Laura, what would I be doing after this was all resolved? And I said at the time that I would continue on with the show, but I've decided to stay. I like your little seaside burg. And, well, since I have a family connection here, I think I'm going to retire to Brindlewood Bay, she says.
But did we mention all the murder?
She says, oh, yes. Brindlewood Bay is a very, very special town, Esther, my dear. Very special. Quite an interesting history the town has, in fact. So many strange things. Did you know, for example, in the spring of 1942, wreckage from a Nazi U-boat washed ashore on Brindlewood Bay. The U-boat appeared to have been torn to pieces, literally ripped apart, and some of the interior bulkheads had strange occult symbols scrawled all over them. No bodies ever turned up, but there was one reported survivor, a German submariner whose mind was shattered and who committed suicide by repeatedly slamming his head into a wall shortly after being detained. The US government even gathered up the pieces of the wreckage. They did it before it could become a major story in the papers. That's why you've never heard of this incident. But of course, I've heard of this incident. My family is well aware of this incident. We have a connection to these events, as I've alluded to before. And I feel the need to get in touch with that part of my past, just as my sister did before her unfortunate detainment.
Well, let's hope that when you find out more about this, it will not lead to you joining your sister, my dear.
I've always been the quicker of the two, so I have no concerns about that. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening, ladies. Until I find more permanent digs, you can find me at Snowdrop House. And she leaves you to it.
That lady really likes murder. She'd be an excellent guest on your podcast, I think, Ruth.
Oh, absolutely.
Indeed, indeed. let's end the Great Brindlewood Bay Bake Off. Let's take a 2-minute break, just a real quick break. We'll come back and we'll kick off the next one. Okay, we're back. Let's do cozy vignettes. Let's reset. Narrate a short scene showing your Maven enjoying her life in Brindlewood Bay, and add a touch of the dark if you have shadow in the garden marked. Whoever wants to go first, go for it.
Well, Ruth's been getting a lot of mileage out of these crows, so I think we're back in the park, and like she's feeding the birds again in the park, and the crow comes down, and it like just looks at her, and she gives it a peanut, and it flies away, and then another one comes down, and another one comes down, until she's just surrounded by crows, and then they start just like doom, doom, doom.
Good.
So I still have a crown that I am owing you, so I'm going to incorporate this as well. So I think where Laura is sorting through some of the stamp collection and kind of some of the letters that she has saved, and she in the morning she was out the day before buying or getting some new postcards, so she's kind of using steam to take off the stamps from the postcards and putting them in her collection. And she comes across this letter addressed to her, and she turns it around, and you can see that it's addressed to her by, and the letter was sent by her sister, Tracy. And she thinks back, and we see, I think nobody from the others, like Esther, Ruth, I don't know, none of them know that she has a sister until now. And we see in LA this kind of funeral or a party. It's actually not the funeral itself, because I think Laura's sister's husband, he was a diplomat and in India, and that's all this connection also where that came from. Like Laura had this affair with a guy working in the embassy in India, that we saw that in the beginning, and she got to know this person through her sister and her husband that were living there in India. And after he had died, Laura's sister came back to LA where Laura was living, and they had this this event celebrating the life of her sister's husband. And Laura was there, and I think some person appeared at this event and gave something to Laura, and that spooked her. It had something to do with this Indian Sanskrit book that we also learned about that she stole from India, and she left this event and she moved away from LA to Brindlewood Bay, and she has been there, and her sister has been looking for her, and I think that might be something we find out soon, that her sister might come to Brindlewood Bay to find her, but until now she hasn't seen her for a long while.
Fabulous, thank you. Esther, cozy vignette?
So I think that Esther has recently really gotten into coffee. She's always been like a tea person. She's really into coffee. And so she's been going to Foam, which is like a coffee shop in Brindlewood Bay, like a hipstery coffee shop.
Is that one of the named coffee
It is one of the named coffee shops.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's been going to Foam and like befriending the people there and like learning about coffee. And so it's just like, it's like a warm day, like mid-afternoon, it's sunny, and she's like having her coffee and she's like enjoying this like latte art that has been done. And as she is, she's got her newspaper and it's a lovely little thing. And she looks down to take in this latte art, and the foam kind of starts to morph into these like weird tentacles before her eyes, before the foam just kind of like, then fully like dissipates away, and it's all like weird movie tentacles.
I love it. I'm gonna wait for the lawnmower to go by. Hold on. I need to get them to change from Wednesdays, apparently. Good. New mystery. With the time we have left, we'll mostly just be setting it up, but that's okay. It's got kind of a complicated setup. So pay close attention here. The mystery is exit stage death. Let's type that in. Complexity is 8. It's a tough one. And it takes place not in Brindlewood Bay. We're on a field trip to Boston. Not a very far field trip, but we're in Boston, and this is going to be several months after the events of the Great Brindlewood Bay Bake Off, so a fair amount of time has passed. But the Mavens are enjoying a week of sightseeing and cultural activities in Boston. They're taking in a show on the last night of their tour, a strange and disturbing production at the Twilight Playhouse called The King in Shadow. Now, normally you'd skip something so avant-garde, but one of you has a nephew connected to the production. I'll throw it up into the table. Whose nephew is connected to the show? What's his name? And what's his involvement in the Twilight Playhouse?
Okay. I have a nephew involved in the show. His name is Jeremy, and he has been like so excited to get involved in theater, and he's always wanted to be an actor. And so we've been subject to a lot of his shenanigans over his life. But it turns out he's a really not great actor. And so this is his first job, but he's just doing like tech, like just props or whatever. But it's so important to him that he's gotten his foot in the door. So gotta go and support.
Gotta support him. Yeah, it's good. The play, The King in Shadow, is divided into 3 acts. The first act is somewhat normal and depicts the day-to-day life of a woman protagonist identified as the Journey Woman. She'll type that here. The first act ends with the Journey Woman receiving news that her 3 immediate family members, mother, father, and brother, have all been killed in a bizarre fishing accident. That's the first act. The second act is somehow more strange and depicts the Journey Woman's travels in the underworld with a character called the Boatman, as they seek to find the court of the occluded king in order to petition the occluded king for the release of her family members from his shadowy realm. The third act is utterly bizarre, difficult to follow, and to large portions of the audience that walked out in the middle of it, insufferable. The bulk of this act involves the introduction of 3 courtiers of the occluded king, the Duchess, the Prince, and the Knave. I'm going to assign each courtier to you as players, and I'm going to ask you to describe the scene in which that courtier is introduced in the play, in the third act. The scene should be either horrifying or bizarre. And because at least one of you has a shadow in the garden marked, I will also reveal a void clue at some point. So, Ruth, you can have the Duchess, or Dan rather. Alicia, you can have the Prince, and Adrian, you can have the Knave. Let's start with, take a moment, and we'll start with the Duchess. Strange or horrifying appearance of the Duchess in the third act.
Okay, so the Duchess is introduced when we visit her, and she's having a tea party, but like there's a lot of wire work involved, and so she's floating around, and all of the props are floating around and just sort of banging into each other randomly, and it's very hard to make out what the purpose of the scene is. It's very hard to hear any of the things she's saying. But yeah, you get the idea that she's supposed to have like a monologue in the middle of it, but you can't really tell what's going on, and they yank her out by the wires like when she's halfway done.
The bizarre angle. Let's talk about the Prince. Tell us about the Prince, Alicia.
All right. I've also decided to go with the bizarre. So the Prince is introduced in a scene where he is holding court, but all of the other members of the court are played by dogs in costumes. But the dogs also appear to be untrained, and so there's this like choreographed dance sequence where these costume dogs are just like running around while the Prince does some kind of strange jig.
It's not hard to imagine why people were getting up and leaving in the middle of this act. Adrian, tell us about the arrival of the Knave.
I think that's more horrifying, because basically a door opens in the back of the theater, and a person, like all of these other characters, they all kind of have these bizarre costumes, and it's all, very theatrical. And this person is wearing just normal clothes, walks in like straight into the theater, and then pulls this big knife and just brutally murders a person sitting in the front row of the theater, which only when, basically this person falls down, you can see that it's a puppet. But it's really this, break between, like, you had this theatrical situation with, the Duchess and everything, and then you have suddenly this outburst of violence with this person who is just normally dressed, could be anyone of the people that are actually watching.
That's creepy. During this time, while this is all going on, at one point, after the Knave is done, after everyone's a little startled and unsettled by all of this, a great number of the remaining audience members, the ones who did not walk out, pull something from beneath their chairs and put it over their face. And they all stand up and turn to face you and what other real audience members there are. They're all wearing featureless gold masks, very reminiscent of the featureless wooden masks that we saw in Brindlewood Bay. And they all say out in unison, "He is here, he is here, all hail the king in shadow, all hail the occluded king." And the stage changes. Everything gets dark. All of those people wearing the gold masks sit back down, take the masks off, and continue behaving like they're normal audience members. The arrival of the occluded king is the conclusion of the show. He is an overly tall figure in tattered black robes and a ghost white mask on his face and a large blood red helmet with plumes of feathers. He's coming out, doing his scene. It's a very strange, sort of bizarre, like, you can't really tell what's going on. It's a lot of wailing and shrieking. And he turns and he seems to be making direct eye contact with you, Esther. He whispers the words, "My beloved." And only you are aware of that. I think when you turn to see if the others noticed that, they didn't. Only you noticed it. And in the middle of the scene, Esther, he whispers a prophecy of death to you. This is a custom move called the Prophecy of the King. It relates to when another of your Maven companions will die. The way the move works is in a future scene, when another Maven is getting ready to take action that will require a die roll, you can say, "This is it. This is what the occluded king whispered to me about. This is how you're going to die." If they go through with the action, you both mark XP. The die roll, however, the 6- result is replaced with "you are killed. The keeper will describe how." So it essentially comes true. Eventually, the chorus members sing a shrieking, discordant dirge as the courtiers push the journeywoman toward the king. The lights go out. And when they come back on again, the curtain has been lowered. No one takes a bow, and there are no ovations. Very few people are even clapping. The ushers come and help people exit the theater. It's an awkward ending to the play. An already very awkward and strange play. The next morning, as you are getting ready to head back to Brindlewood Bay, Jeremy comes to the hotel room that you're all staying in. And he explains that Natasha Gray, the young actress who played the journeywoman, was found dead at the end of last night's performance. A ritual dagger plunged into her heart while the lights were out. Boston PD is investigating, but he hopes you might also get involved. And there'll be more details next time we meet. But for now, that's where we're at. Do we have any unresolved crowns? In that case, let's go to stars and wishes. Stars, things you enjoyed. Wishes, things you hope to see next time. Whoever wants to go first, take it away.
I think we might do the end of session questions first, or should we do that after?
Yes, that is something we do in this game, isn't it? Let's do end of session questions first. Thank you. Esther, did the murder maven solve the mystery? Yes. Take an XP. I don't know if you even had time, Esther, but did you secretly undermine the authority of a local official or behave like a woman half your age?
I don't think so. I don't think there was really time.
Yeah, there wasn't really time, was there? Let's go to Ruth. Yes to the first one. Did you share a memory of a late family member, Ruth?
Yes, the way my husband died.
Oh, that's right. Did you behave like a woman half your age?
Yes. I took out a speeding truck and dove into an equipment box.
Fair enough. Take your XPs. Let's go to Laura. Did you share a memory of a late family member, Laura?
Well, maybe with this funeral of the sister's husband. I'm not sure if that qualifies.
It was
maybe not really.
Yeah, I think I would like to see it come out more.
Yeah.
I think. Did you secretly undermine the authority of a local official?
Yes, I think so. When I suggested that we need to get some additional cops involved, or maybe the FBI from outside, because Sheriff Dalrymple will not be able to do this on his own.
To handle it, yeah, that's good. Take your XP there, and okay, now we can do stars and wishes.
I want to give a star to our outrageous theory that included the totally normal, the Prime Minister of Britain is having an affair with Donna Riviera. Like, it's so outrageous and I love it. So stars to that.
Yeah, I give a star for, I really liked the, I think that a star to Adrian for doing that like middle of the night follow-up scene, which is just like so much more dangerous and just asking for it, but I think it kind of really fits Laura's character, kind of like where Laura's at. So I really like that as a way of kicking things off, you know.
Yeah, I like that. That directly led us into some interesting revelations and creepy. I mean, it's interesting for me because the darker it gets, the more difficult it becomes. And I think Ruth kind of was in a way and good today with the. I like that a lot with these kind of action moves. It becomes difficult not to treat these characters as superheroes somehow, right? Like as in many games where you know. So that was one of the things where I tried, like, in the scene that we had with Etienne, how to do something there without being reckless, in a sense that these old ladies probably wouldn't be, right? Even though they might be still, you know, being able to show that they're younger than they look and so on. Yeah, so I like that kind of balance between having these characters being these meddling old women, and on the other hand, kind of getting in these dark places and in these action scenes. So I liked how we're doing this, both of it.
Yeah, there's a balance. It's not even a balance. It's the game like really lustily embraces like both the creepy and the camp. Like there's like big camp element to this, right? Which I think the game likes. It's a space the game likes to be in, and to me it's fun. I really enjoy it. Dan? Sorry.
Yeah, so I was gonna say I like the that we're kind of building up this like stable of villains who are like pretty terrifying, but I like that this game doesn't give you a way to just be like, well, we should just go kill that guy, right? Like it's really hard to deal with these horrible people who like we're finding out all of these secrets about, and they're all terrible, but like there's not really a lot we can do about it, and I really like the tension of that.
Yeah, the interesting thing, like mechanically, like in the background, the way that our conspiracy works is my hands are tied too, because there are certain things I can't do yet with the midwives, right? Like at a certain point, the midwives will be much more wary of you, and they will like attack you more aggressively, and they'll use magic against you. And but so like you can't go after them, but they can't go after you either, because that's not where the story is right now, right? The story will eventually get there, but it's not there yet, which I think is fun. So star for the system.
Yeah, I also like going back to Snowdrop House, Snowdrop House. Yeah, that was great to kind of. And again, I was wondering, like, you know, here, basically how would Laura react, because this is a really horrifying place for her. So she's not actually that happy to go back there, but on the other hand, that's where. So I think this is also this, you know, like they are quite daring, these Mavens, but they're also not stupid or like, you know.
Well, so. you were very like reserved in that scene, which I think was appropriate. Yeah. I'll give you a star for that, because like you definitely played it right, where Laura wouldn't be gung-ho podcaster trying to figure out what's going on back at Snowdrop House, right? You were more like, oh, I hate this place, I guess we're going here, you know. So that was good. I thought it was really great.
I also liked a lot the completely, I think, improvised scene with Buck's mother and the house and everything.
Totally
So
improvised, yeah. Did not expect that one to happen, but it was fun to do though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I star to the writers of one of my favorite movies, Steel Magnolias, that I totally stole the cuppa recipe and the whole dialogue from. So because I've seen that movie 9 million times. Any other stars or wishes if you have those two?
Well, I'm looking for it because I took another move for the advancement. So I took Rick and AJ. So I'm looking forward to Laura's sister Tracy coming up in the future. So this very posh diplomat's wife, you know.
I love Rick and AJ because it's the Rick and AJ's the sibling is always so fun to play because they're meant to be like, they're like an antagonist, right? But like not a dangerous antagonist, so it's fun.
Yeah, I took Scarecrow because I'm ready to start just getting weird shit happening. So
good. Awesome. Well, oh, looks like we lost Alicia. It's okay. She froze up. My wish for next time is I love this mystery we're doing, Exit Stage Death. It's probably my favorite of the ones I've written, and I'm really excited to do it because it's fun for things to happen outside of Brindlewood Bay, because the stakes feel different and the vibe feels different when you're doing a mystery that's not in Brindlewood Bay, and this one has a lot of really fun side characters. So I'm pretty pumped to do Exit Stage Death. So that's my main thing I'm looking forward to.
I feel like it's going to be hard to top the British Bake Off themed one, man. That is like so just designed for everything I love. So
I like that one too. I mean, I like all of mine, I guess, but the Exit Stage Death is, I don't know. Exit Stage Death has like, it's because it basically revolves around these like goth theater kids who are like too old to be that way anymore. So, and their ridiculous play. So I don't know, it's fun. Fabulous. Any other stars wishes before we go? Okie doke. In that case, I guess we lost Alicia, but that's okay. No, internet went out. Okay. Well, that's that. I'm going to stop the recording.